Man, you look like you haven't slept in days, Noah said, dropping into the chair across from me at the cafe. I rubbed my eyes, staring at the flickering light above the counter. Another double shift? My coworker Dan asked, pouring himself coffee. Yeah, I muttered. Rent's due. Plus, Lara needs more for the boutique lease. You've been saying that for 6 months, man. You sure she's not? I cut him off. She's not using me. She's building something real. He held up his hands. All right. Just saying don't lose yourself in someone else's dream. I forced a laugh. Too late for that. By the time I got home, the city lights had faded into early morning gray. My body ached. My eyes burned. But as I unlocked the door, I saw Herleru sitting, cross-legged on the couch, laptop open. Wearing that silky robe that made fatigue disappear for a second, she looked up, smiling faintly. You're back late again. Work ran over, I said, dropping my bag. Got the deposit ready for your supplier? I'll transfer it tomorrow. Her smile widened. You're amazing, Ethan. I swear, once the boutique takes off, everything will change. It's already changing, I said softly. We're building it together. She leaned over, kissing my cheek. Just a few more months, okay? Yeah, I whispered, trying to ignore how those words were starting to sound like a loop. I showered, collapsed into bed, and stared at the ceiling. My chest swelled with pride into quiet ache. Every hour I worked, every dollar I saved, it all went into her dream. That had to mean something. The next evening, I found her pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Yes. The money's coming through, she said, voice low but sharp. He's just waiting for the right time to move it. No, he won't suspect. My heart thudded once, hard. When she saw me, her tone softened instantly. Oh, hey, babe. I was just talking to the vendor about fabric delays. I blinked, forcing a smile. Everything okay? Of course, she said too quickly. You worry too much. I nodded, even though something in her voice left a small crack in my trust. At dinner, I tried to shake it off. You remember our old plans? That beach trip we talked about? She didn't look up from her phone. Ethan, please. We can't afford vacations right now, right? I said quietly. I forgot. Her thumb scrolled faster. Later that week, I stood in the bank line, paycheck in hand. My phone buzzed her as message. Don't forget the transfer today. Love you. Love you. 2 words that used to feel warm now sounded rehearsed. Still, I made the deposit. Every cent. That night I came home early with takeout. A rare surprise. I found her laughing on the couch, phone glowing against her face. Talking to Mia again. I asked lightly. Ham, she said, tucking her hair behind her ear. She's helping me with marketing ideas. Good, I said, forcing calm. You deserve all the success. She looked up then, something unreadable flashing in her eyes. You really mean that? Of course I do. Her expression softened, but only for a moment. You're too good, Ethan. Sometimes I feel guilty, chuckled awkwardly. For what? Having ambition? For making you work so hard. Lara, it's for us, I said, sitting beside her. Your dream is my dream. She smiled faintly, but her eyes darted to her phone again. I'll make it worth it. You'll see. That night, she fell asleep quickly. I lay awake beside her, staring at the faint glow of her phone charging on the nightstand. Notifications kept lighting the screen. Every vibration made my stomach twist. Around 1 a.m., I heard her stir. She got up quietly, stepping into the hallway. I waited a few seconds. Then followed, stopping by the doorway. She stood in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, whispering, Yes, I got it. The full amount? He transferred it this morning. My heart froze. Her voice softened, almost affectionate. You don't have to worry. He'll never know. I'll tell him it's inventory. He believes anything I say. Silence followed, broken only by a faint laugh from her end. I stepped back before she could turn. My chest felt like it had caved in. I went to our bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at my hands. For the first time, they didn't look like hands that built something. They looked like hands that were used. When she came back, She smiled like nothing had happened. "You're awake?" "Yeah," I said softly. "Just thinking about what?" "About how much dreams cost." She tilted her head, smirking. "You can't put a price on dreams, Ethan." I looked at her, holding back everything in me. "Maybe you can." She laughed, kissed my forehead, and crawled into bed. "Don't be so serious. You'll see. It'll all be worth it soon." I watched her drift to sleep, her breathing slow and calm, while my heart beat heavy in the dark. In that silence, the words repeated in my mind like a curse. "He'll never know," but I did. "Man, you look like you haven't slept in days," Noah said, dropping into the chair across from me at the cafe. I rubbed my temples. "I haven't. Work's been brutal." "Oh, it's not work," he said, stirring his coffee. "It's her. You're killing yourself for Lara's dream, not yours." I sighed. "Noah, not this again. I'm serious," he pressed. "You're doing double shifts, skipping weekends. What do you get in return?" "She's trying," I said. "The boutique's about to launch. It just needs time," he leaned forward. "Time? Or another deposit from your account?" "Stop it." My tone came out sharper than I intended. He raised his hands. "I'm your friend, Ethan. I'm supposed to stop you before you drown." I took a slow breath, staring into my untouched cup. "You don't understand. Lara's not like that. She's passionate, ambitious. She wants something more than an ordinary life." "Yeah," he muttered, "and she's building it on your back." I didn't answer. I couldn't. That evening, I got home to an empty apartment. The dinner I'd cooked had gone cold. Her phone charger was gone, her laptop missing from the table. I texted, "Long night again? Everything okay?" She replied minutes later, "Yeah, meeting with vendors." "Don't wait up." I dropped the phone onto the counter and leaned against the wall. It wasn't the first late night, or the second. When she finally came home around 2 a.m., her perfume hit first, expensive, floral, new. "You're up?" she asked, surprised. "Couldn't sleep," I said. "You were out late? Business dinner?" she replied, kicking off her heels. "We're negotiating supplier costs." I eyed the sleek black dress she wore. "That looks pricey for a business meeting," she smirked. "You like it?" "Yeah," I admitted. "I just don't remember us buying it." She laughed softly. "Relax, Ethan. It's called marketing. You dress like success to get success." I wanted to believe that. I really did. The next morning I noticed a bag in the closet designer, unfamiliar. Price tag still hanging? New collection? I asked casually while she got ready. "Oh, that," she said, applying lipstick. "Gift from a client? A client?" "Yeah. Networking helps when you're trying to grow." Her tone was calm, practiced. I nodded, but something inside me twisted. That weekend, Noah stopped by while she was working. He scanned the empty living room and raised an eyebrow. "Still out?" "Yeah, meeting investors this time." He scoffed. "Investors? Or a guy with a wallet?" "Noah," he shrugged. "I'm just saying. I know people, Ethan. I hear things. She's been seen at that rooftop place downtown Norham Lounge." I frowned. "That's not proof. It's not smoke without fire," he said quietly. I wanted to argue, but the doubt had already rooted itself deep. That night, I opened her social media, something I hadn't done in months. She'd made her profile public for her brand. Her story flashed. Candlelit tables, wine glasses, city lights. The caption read, "Meeting the right people opens doors." I stared at the photo. She sat smiling, shoulders bare, hair perfectly styled. Across the table, barely visible, but unmistakable Rian, I recognized him instantly. He'd been Lara's mentor during a past internship. She'd mentioned him once, casually, like he was harmless. He wasn't in the picture. His hand rested on the back of her chair. Too familiar. Too easy. My stomach tightened. I zoomed in, hoping I was wrong. The way she leaned slightly toward him, the soft, closed-lip smile she used to give Met, wasn't business. It was something else. When she came home later that night, I sat at the dining table, laptop open to her post. She froze when she saw it. You're stalking me now? I was checking on your business dinner, I said evenly. Her eyes flickered. You don't trust me? Should I? She let out a short laugh. You're being paranoid, Ethan. Ryan's an investor. That's all? Investors touch your back now? Her face hardened. It's called networking. Something you wouldn't understand since you spend all your time at a dead-end job. That one hit deep. She realized it too. Ethan, I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, you did, I said quietly. You meant exactly that. She sighed dramatically, crossing her arms. You're twisting things. I'm doing this for us. For our future? I stood slowly. Funny, because it's starting to look like your future doesn't have me in it. Her expression faltered, just for a second. You're tired. You're reading into things. I'm awake for the first time in months, I said, voice low. I just don't like what I see. She walked past me, brushing my shoulder. You're impossible when you're like this. Like what? Insecure. The word snapped something inside me. I turned, meeting her gaze. No, Lara, I'm not insecure. I'm just realizing that maybe I've been financing a fantasy one that doesn't include me. She rolled her eyes. You're ridiculous, maybe I said. But at least I'm honest. She grabbed her purse. I'm not doing this tonight. I'm going to bed. I watched her walk away, her heels clicking down the hall. The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at the photo on my screen again. Ryan's hand. Her smile. The caption glowing like a mockery of everything I'd built. Meeting the right people opens doors. I whispered to myself. Yeah, and it closes others. I finally lay down beside her. She was already asleep, turned away from me. Her perfume lingered in the air suite, expensive and suffocating. I stared at the ceiling. Every inhale heavier than the last, every heartbeat echoing with Noah's words, "You're funding her dreams, not yours." And for the first time, I wondered if I'd already paid the price. The silence in our apartment that night was unbearable. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the faint glow from Lara's phone on the nightstand. My voice finally broke the quiet. Lara, can I ask you something? She didn't even look up from her laptop. You just did, I swallowed, trying to steady my tone. Are you hiding something from me? Her fingers froze mid-typing. What's that supposed to mean? Lately you've been distant, I said, forcing my voice calm. You're always out. You avoid eye contact. You laugh less when you're with me. It feels like you're somewhere else. Lara sighed heavily, shutting her laptop with a snap. So now I'm being interrogated? You think I'm cheating on you? I didn't say that. Rubbed my temples. I just want to understand what's going on. I've been working double shifts, barely sleeping, and I feel like I'm losing you. She stood up sharply. You're not losing me. You're suffocating me. Her words cut deeper than she knew. Suffocating you, I repeated quietly. Yes, she snapped. You think love means keeping tabs on me? Asking where I go, what I do, who I talk to? I'm building something for us, Ethan. But instead of trusting me, you make me feel like a criminal. I'm not trying to control you. Oh, please. She interrupted, voice rising. Every time I walk out the door, you have that look. Like I owe you an explanation. You think I don't notice? I felt the heat rise in my chest. I'm sorry if I've made you feel that way. I've seen things that don't add up. Expensive clothes, late nights, unexplained calls. I don't know what to think anymore. She crossed her arms. You think I'm lying to you because of a few dresses? You're unbelievable. I just want honesty, Lara. She scoffed. Honesty. Fine. You want honesty? You've become obsessed. You work yourself to death, come home exhausted, and then expect me to fix your insecurities. Maybe if you took better care of yourself, you'd stop imagining things. Oh, that one hurt. I turned away, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm doing all this for you. Then stop, she said coldly. I never asked you to. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. My throat ached, my chest tight. I could feel the ground shifting beneath us, but I still reached for her. I'm sorry, I murmured. I didn't mean to sound like that. She softened slightly, brushing her hair back. You just need to trust me, Ethan. I'm doing everything for our future. Don't ruin it because of your paranoia. When she placed her hand on my cheek, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe every word. I do trust you, I said, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Good, she whispered, kissing my forehead. Now please, stop overthinking. But as she turned off the light and slipped into bed, my mind didn't stop. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my heart whispering what my mouth couldn't. She's lying. 2 days later, I met Noah at a small cafe near my office. He'd been trying to reach me for days. His message is urgent. When I arrived, he was already waiting, arms folded, eyes serious. You look like hell, he said. Thanks, I muttered, sitting down. Been a rough week. Ethan, he said slowly, you need to listen to me carefully. I found something. What are you talking about? He slid his phone across the table. On the screen was a screenshot Lara's name, followed by a large transfer record from my savings account. The number was dizzying. My voice cracked. That can't be right. It is, he said firmly. You told me you gave her access for the boutique funds, right? Yes, but she said she'd only use it for inventory, rent, stuff like that. Noah shook his head. That account she sent the money to, it's not a business supplier. It's registered under someone named Ryan Brooks. The name hit me like ice water. Ryan? He nodded grimly. The same guy she's been hanging out with. I stared at the screen, my breath shallow. No, maybe it's part of the business. Maybe he's an investor or something. Noah leaned forward. Ethan, come on. You're too smart for that. I ran my hands through my hair, heart pounding. She wouldn't. She couldn't. She did, Noah said softly. And she's using you to fund whatever's going on between them. I sat in silence, my coffee untouched, my hands trembling. My mind screamed at me to deny it, to find some other explanation. When I finally spoke, my voice was a whisper. Maybe it's business. Noah looked at me with pity. You don't believe that? He was right. I didn't. Every late-night excuse, every hollow, I love you. Every time she'd pulled a weight, all came together like puzzle pieces I never wanted to see. I leaned back, staring at nothing. She told me I was paranoid. She's gaslighting you, man, Noah said firmly. And you keep apologizing for caring. I laughed bitterly. That's what love does. It blinds you until you're the one holding the knife she used. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Then stop letting her twist it. I nodded weakly, though inside I felt hollow. I just need to hear it from her. I need her to tell me. Noah exhaled. You won't get that confession, Ethan. She'll never say it. He was right again. Because deep down I already knew the truth. I just didn't have the strength to face it yet. The streets were quiet that morning, the kind of stillness that made every thought louder. I hadn't planned to go to Lara's boutique, it just happened. I told myself I'd surprise her, maybe bring her coffee, maybe see her smile again. But when I arrived, the glass door reflected only my own confused face. The sign read closed. I frowned. It was barely noon. I peeked through the glass lights off, mannequins still draped in unfinished dresses. My chest tightened. Maybe she's running errands, I whispered, though no one was there to hear it. I called her. No answer. Texted her. Everything okay? Seeing no reply. Something felt off. I got back in my car and drove. My mind wouldn't stop spinning every doubt, every uneasy silence, every late night at work. Told myself I was paranoid. That's what she always said, but fate has a cruel sense of timing at a red light. I looked left and there she was. Lara sat in the passenger seat of a sleek black car, window half down, laughing. Her head tilted the way it used to when she was happy, except now it wasn't me beside her. It was him. Ryan, her hand rested lightly on his arm. His fingers brushed over hers like they'd done it 1,000 times before. The light turned green. I didn't move. Cars honked behind me. I gripped the steering wheel, my pulse hammering in my ears. My stomach twisted as she leaned closer to him, laughing harder. The woman I built everything for, the one I worked nights for, skipped meals for, was holding hands with another man. My phone buzzed. Lara, working late again, love. Don't wait up, I almost laughed. That night I sat in our living room waiting. No lights, no TV, just the clock ticking against the silence. Midnight passed, then 1, then 2. Finally, the front door clicked open. Lara stepped in, humming softly, tossing her purse on the couch. The smell of perfume and wine filled the air. "Ethan," she called lightly, clearly not expecting me awake. "I'm here." She froze, keys still in hand. "Oh, you scared me. Working late again?" I asked, voice calm to calm. Her smile faltered. "Yes, why?" "Because I stopped by your boutique today," I said slowly. It was closed. She blinked. "I had to handle supplier issues downtown." I nodded. "In Ryan's car?" The color drained from her face. "What?" "I saw you." She crossed her arms, her tone defensive. "You followed me?" "I drove by," I said, leaning forward. "You were laughing with him? Holding hands?" She scoffed, forcing a laugh. "Oh, so now I can't even talk to my business partner without you imagining things." "Business partner," I said, my voice sharp. "Is that what we're calling him now?" Her eyes hardened. "You're pathetic, Ethan. You really think I'd risk everything I've built for some fling?" "Everything you've built?" My voice cracked. "You mean everything I paid for?" She rolled her eyes. Here we go again. The martyr speech. I stood, anger breaking through the exhaustion. "I gave up my life for you, Lara. My sleep, my savings, my peace, everything. And for what?" She laughed bitterly. "Because you thought money could buy love? You thought being the nice guy made you special?" "Don't twist this," I said, my jaw tight. "You used me." She looked right at me, then cold, unflinching. "So what if I did?" The words hit harder than any slap. "You were never enough," she continued, voice steady, cruel. "Not exciting enough. Not ambitious enough. You were safe. A man who'd work himself to death just to keep me comfortable." My throat burned. "I did it because I loved you. Love." She sneered. "You call that love? Love isn't about sacrifice. Ethan, it's about winning. About having someone who can keep up." I felt the air leave my lungs. "And Ryan? Is he winning?" She smirked faintly. "He's not you. That's the point, isn't it?" She didn't answer. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the rain starting outside, tapping against the window. My hands trembled, but I didn't look away. Was any of it real? I finally asked. Her silence told me everything. "Say something, Lara," she shrugged. "We had our moments." I laughed once, hollow and sharp. "Moments. That's all I was to you." She turned away, reaching for her purse. "I don't have to justify myself to you." "You don't," I said quietly. "You already did." She paused, her back still to me. "You'll thank me someday," she murmured. "You'll realize I did you a favor." I stepped closer, my voice low. "You didn't free me, Lara. You broke me." She faced me then, expression unreadable. "Maybe that's what you needed." And with that, she walked out. I stood there for a long time after the door shut. The sound of her heels fading down the hall was the last thread of the life I'd built. I looked around the apartment hour photos, her clothes draped over the chair. The flowers I'd bought last week that were now wilting in the vase. Everything looked the same, but nothing was. I sank to the floor, my hands covering my face. The tears came quietly, not as sobs, but as something deeper, something hollow. It wasn't just love I'd lost. It was the version of myself who believed love meant giving everything. And the cruelest part? She didn't steal my money. She stole my reason for dreaming. Days bled into nights, and nights into something emptier. I stopped keeping track. My alarm still rang every morning, but I didn't move. The smell of cold coffee and stale air clung to my apartment. I had quit my second job 2 days after Lara left. I told my boss I needed a break, but really I couldn't face another hour pretending I still had a purpose. The first week, I barely spoke to anyone. The second week, I stopped answering calls altogether, except Noah. He showed up anyway. I remember him standing at my door, rocking like a damn drum. "Ethan, I know you're in there. Open up before I kick this door in." I didn't move. "Fine," he said through the door. "If you're dead, I'm eating your leftover pizza," I groaned. "You're unbelievable." Ah! The door creaked open, and Noah stepped in with 2 coffees and a look that said, "You look like hell." He wasn't wrong. He sat down across from me. "You've got to stop doing this to yourself." I stared at the blank TV screen. "Doing what?" "Rotting in your own apartment?" Shrugged. "It's peaceful. It's pathetic," he said. "You've lost weight, you smell like regret, and your place looks like a raccoon's den. Thanks for the poetry," sighed. "Ethan, look at me." I didn't. "She's not worth this," he said quietly. "Lara's already posting pictures with him. Do you really want her to win twice?" I flinched. "Don't. She's at some rooftop restaurant," he continued. "Holding champagne?" Caption says, "Chasing dreams together." My throat tightened. I imagined her smiling for the camera, wearing the necklace I bought her for her birthday. "Good for her," I muttered. "No," Noah said firmly. "Not good for her. Not good for you either. She's using your money to play rich." I laughed bitterly. "At least, someone's living my dream." He slammed his coffee down. "You think this is funny? You gave her everything, man. Don't let her take what's left." I finally met his eyes. "What's left, Noah?" He pointed at my chest. "You. That's what's left." For a second, I hated him for saying it. Then I hated myself for needing to hear it. That night I sat by the window watching the city lights flicker. I scrolled through my phone, each photo like a knife. Lara in designer clothes, fancy hotels. Champagne toasts all bought with the money I'd earned while she was whispering lies in my ear. My reflection in the glass looked like a ghost. "You were never enough," she'd said. I whispered it back, mocking myself. Never enough. The words sank in until something inside me twisted. Not sadness this time, but something sharper. Raged I stood up, pacing. My hands shook, but not from weakness. From the storm building inside me, I grabbed a notebook from the desk and flipped it open. Pages filled with plans for her boutique stared back at missketches, calculations, cost estimates. I tore them out one by one. The sound was violent, satisfying. I threw the papers in the trash and muttered no more. No more late nights. No more pity. No more being the fool who worked for someone else's dream. I was done being the victim in her story. The next morning, Noah called again. "You alive?" He asked barely. I said, "That's progress." "I think I'm done," I told him. "With what?" Feeling sorry for myself. He was silent for a beat. "You sure?" "I've been sitting here waiting for an apology that's never coming," I said. "She's out there pretending she built her empire on her own. Maybe it's time I actually build mine." He chuckled softly. "There's the Ethan I remember. I don't even know where to start," I admitted. "Start anywhere," he said. "Just don't stay here." Later that evening, I dragged myself to the gym for the first time in months. The smell of sweat and metal filled the air. I stood in front of the mirror, gripping the dumbbells. My reflection trembling. Every rep hurt. Not just my muscles, but something deeper. Every ounce of humiliation, every sleepless night. Every time I believed her lies, Noah's words echoed in my head. "You can't let them win by breaking you." I pushed harder. When I got home, I showered for the first time in days. The water felt like a reset. I wiped the fog from the mirror and stared at myself. "You're still here?" I whispered. And for the first time, it didn't sound like a curse. That night, I didn't scroll through her photos. I deleted them. Every single one. The memories hurt. But the silence that followed felt cleaner like fresh air after a storm. I opened my laptop, stared at a blank page, and began typing. Ideas poured out not about her, but about me. My future, my goals, the life I could still build, because yes, Lara took everything. My savings, my sleep, my heart. But she didn't take my will. That belonged to me. By midnight, I closed my laptop and sat back, exhausted but alive. The pain was still there, sharp and raw. But it wasn't winning anymore. When my phone buzzed again, I ignored it. Maybe one day she'd realize what she lost, but by then, it wouldn't matter because I wouldn't be the man she left behind. I'd be the man who survived it. Morning sunlight crept through the blinds, landing on the desk where I'd left my resume open all night. For the first time in months, I wasn't dreading the day ahead. I looked at the mirror, straightened my tie, and whispered, "You've survived worse." The reflection staring back at me wasn't the same broken man from weeks ago. My eyes were still tired. Yes, but there was something else there now. Focused by 8 a.m. I was standing in front of the company building where I'd worked for years, the same place. I once clocked in half asleep from double shifts. But today, I wasn't there to survive. I was there to rise. As I walked in, I heard Noah's voice in my head. "Don't let them win by breaking you. Not this time." When I stepped into the conference room for the promotion interview, a woman was already there, sitting at the table, reviewing files. "Ethan Reed?" she asked, looking up. "Yes," I said, offering a polite smile. "You must be Grace Carter," she interrupted gently. "HR Director. I'll be leading this interview." Her tone wasn't cold, but calm steady. Like she'd seen 1,000 storms and learned not to flinch. "Have a seat," she said. I sat down, trying to ignore the slight tremor in my hands. She glanced at my file. "You've been here 6 years. 7, I corrected quietly. Started part-time, then full-time. Managed logistics, handled vendor transitions, took on overtime when needed." Her eyes flicked up. "Overtime seems to be a recurring theme with you." I smiled faintly. "You could say I've had a complicated relationship with hard work." Grace tilted her head. "Why do you want this position now?" I hesitated. I could have given the usual rehearsed line about career growth and leadership potential, but instead, I spoke the truth. "Because I've spent years working for other people's dreams," I said softly. "And it's time I work for mine." She studied me for a moment, then closed the file. "That's an honest answer. Rare these days." "I figured I might as well be myself," I said. "I've already tried being who others wanted me to be." For the first time, she smiled. Small, genuine. "Well, Mr. Reed, honesty and effort still count for something here." I realized something strange. I wasn't nervous anymore. "Thank you," I said. Shaking her hand. "Don't thank me yet," she replied with a faint smirk. "You might be working under me soon," I chuckled. "I'll try not to make your job harder." She raised an eyebrow. "We'll see." Later that afternoon, I met Noah for lunch. He grinned the moment he saw me. "You look alive again." "What happened? Did someone slip caffeine into your soul?" "Something like that," I said. "Had an interview for the management position." He nearly choked on his fries. "You actually did it?" "About time, man." "Grace Carter handled it," I said. "Sharp woman. Doesn't talk much but reads everything." "Grace Carter," he repeated with a grin. "Is she cute?" I shot him a look. "She's professional. So, yes." I laughed. "She's the kind of person who makes you want to stop making excuses." He leaned back. "Sounds like what you need." "Maybe," I said. "But this time, I'm not rushing into anything. I've learned enough about illusions." He nodded approvingly. "Proud of you, man." A few days later, I got the call. "Mr. Reed," Grace's voice said through the phone, calm as ever, "congratulations. You got the position." I blinked, stunned. "Thank you, really. You earned it," she said simply. "Your record speaks for itself." After I hung up, I just sat there smiling for the first time in a long time. Not because I'd won something, but because I'd taken something back myself. The next week at work was different. Colleagues who once saw me as the guy who never said no to overtime now came to me for guidance. My desk wasn't buried in chaos anymore. It was organized. Intentional Grace occasionally stopped by to discuss projects. She never pried, never pitied, just listened when I spoke. Offered advice when needed. One afternoon during a coffee break, she asked, "You seem quieter than most managers. Why is that?" Because noise doesn't fix things, I said. Action does. She smiled. I like that. Something in her tone made me realize she wasn't just talking about work. Meanwhile, outside my new rhythm, rumors began to drift in. Laura's boutique, her pride. Her empire was unraveling. A former supplier reached out to me by chance, asking if I knew how to contact her. She owes a lot of people, he said. Big amounts. I hesitated. I'm not in touch with her anymore, Jamie said. Ryan's running things now, and it's going downhill fast. Investors are pulling out. She burned too many bridges. When the call ended, I just sat there staring at the phone. For a long time, I thought that news would make me smile. But it didn't. Instead, I felt nothing. Maybe that was the point. Healing wasn't about watching others fall. It was about no longer needing to. That evening, Grace found me still at my desk. Working late already? I shrugged. Old habits, she set a cup of coffee beside me. You don't have to prove anything here, Ethan. I'm not, I said quietly. I just want to make things right this time. With yourself, she asked. I nodded. She gave me a small smile. Then start by going home. I chuckled. You're good at giving orders. That's why they pay me more, she said, smirking as she turned to leave. I called out, Grace. She looked back. Yes. Thanks, I said, for treating me like I'm more than what I've been through. Her eyes softened. You always were, Ethan. You just forgot for a while. That night, as I walked home under the streetlights, I realized something simple but powerful. Lara had taken my money, my love, my peace, but Grace, without even trying, had given me back my sense of worth. And for the first time, rebuilding didn't feel like starting over. It felt like finally becoming whole. The office buzzed louder than usual that morning. Whispers spread like wildfire through the hallways, glances darting my way every few minutes. By lunchtime, even Grace looked up from her screen and said, You've seen the news, haven't you? I frowned. What news? She hesitated, then slid her phone across the table. You might want to read this yourself. On the screen. A headline burned in bold letters. Entrepreneur Ryan Brooks under investigation for fraud partner Lara Mitchell implicated. I stared at it for a long moment, my chest tightening not from shock, but from the strange calm that followed. Grace spoke softly. She's your ex, isn't she? I nodded once. She was. She must have known, she said. Maybe, I replied quietly. Or maybe she just didn't want to see it. Grace studied me for a second. You're taking this? Well, I already mourned her, I said. This is just the echo. By evening, the office emptied. I stayed late, finishing reports, letting the silence wash over me. The city lights outside flickered against the glass walls. And I thought about how fast life turns, how easily everything you build can collapse when it's built on lies. Then, just as I shut down my computer, I heard the faint sound of heels clicking down the hallway. Ethan, a shaky voice called. I froze. That voice, soft, broken once, filled my world, Lara. I turned slowly. She stood by the doorway, wearing a wrinkled coat over a dress that had once screamed luxury. Her makeup was smudged, her hair undone, but it wasn't the disheveled look that struck me, it was her eyes. Red. Empty. Lara, I said quietly. Her lips trembled. You're still here? I work here, I said simply. It's not that surprising. She laughed weakly, a hollow sound. I didn't know where else to go. I said nothing. She took a few steps closer, clutching her purse like it held the last pieces of her pride. You've seen the news, haven't you? I have. Her voice cracked. He used me, Ethan. Everything he promised, every word, it was a lie. He took my money, the boutique, everything. When the police came, he disappeared. I kept my tone steady. You mean the way you disappeared from us? Her eyes widened. That's not fair. You don't understand? I understand perfectly, I interrupted. You traded loyalty for luxury. And now, luxury traded you back. She flinched. Don't say that, please. I sighed, leaning against the desk. You know, Lara, I used to replay the night you left me. Every word, every look. I thought if I could just understand why, it wouldn't hurt anymore. Oh. Her voice shook. I made a mistake. No, I said sharply. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was a choice. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I thought he loved me. I gave a bitter smile. So did I. She took another hesitant step. Ethan, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm begging you say something. Anything. I looked at her for a long time, searching for the woman I once knew. She wasn't there. The one in front of me was a stranger who'd gambled everything and lost. You want to know what I learned from all of this? I asked finally. She nodded, tears glistening. You taught me how not to love, said quietly. Her sob broke the silence. Please, don't walk away. I have nothing left. I picked up my bag and stood. You had everything once. You just didn't see it. Ethan, wait, but I didn't. As I walked past her, I heard her collapse onto the floor, sobbing into her hands. The sound echoed through the hallway raw, desperate, familiar. It was the same sound I once made when I realized she'd chosen someone else. Except this time. It wasn't my heart breaking. It was hers. Outside, the night air was sharp, clean. I stood by the curb watching the city lights blur in the rain. Grace texted me. You okay? I typed back, yeah. Just finished something I should have ended long ago, she replied. Good. Don't look back. I slipped my phone into my pocket and exhaled. For years. I thought closure meant hearing her say sorry. But as I watched the office lights fade behind me, I realized closure wasn't about her at all. It was about me finally walking away without needing revenge. Without needing her pain to justify my own, because the truth was simple. Karma didn't need my help. It just needed time. I stayed late at the office again that night, though not because I had to. Grace was there too, her lamp casting a warm light over scattered papers. The hum of the city outside felt distant, peaceful, almost forgiving. She glanced up from her work. You're still here? Could ask you the same, I said, sipping my coffee. She smiled faintly. I like quiet spaces. They tell the truth. I chuckled. That's poetic, or lonely, she said softly. Depends on who's listening. I hesitated, then nodded. I used to drown in silence. Now I'm learning to breathe in it. Grace folded her hands. That sounds like progress. Feels like it, I admitted. There was a time I couldn't go a day without replaying her voice in my head. Every word she said, every lie. Grace tilted her head. And now? Now, I said slowly, I can remember without bleeding. She gave a small nod, her eyes soft but steady. That's when you know you've started healing. We sat in that quiet for a while, papers forgotten. I stared at the reflections in the office glass, two people sitting side by side, both carrying stories the world would never know. I broke the silence. Can I tell you something? She looked at me. You just did. I smiled. About my past. Go on, I exhaled slowly. I loved someone who didn't love me back the same way. Or maybe she did once, but not enough to stay. I worked myself to the bone trying to build her dream. Turns out I was just building my own destruction. Grace didn't interrupt. She just listened, her gaze fixed on me, not judging, not pitying. I thought love meant giving everything, I continued. Turns out, love without respect is just surrender, and I surrendered everything. She finally spoke. Do you hate her? I paused. The question lingered in the air like smoke. No, I said at last. Not anymore. Grace's voice softened. Then what do you feel? Gratitude, I said quietly. She taught me what not to be. What not to give away so easily, Grace smiled. Pain is the price of becoming real. Her words hit deeper than she probably intended. I repeated them in my head, the price of becoming real. Over the next few weeks, things changed subtly. I found myself mentoring new employees, people who reminded me of myself before the fall. One afternoon, a young analyst named Chloe stopped by my desk. Ethan, how did you keep going when things got tough? I thought for a moment. You don't keep going because it's easy. You keep going because stopping means letting someone else decide who you are. She nodded thoughtfully. So, it's about control. No, I said with a small smile. It's about peace. Control fades. Peace lasts. Later, Grace overheard and teased, "You're starting to sound like a motivational speaker." "Don't tempt me," I said. "I might start charging for wisdom." She laughed. "You'd be underpaid." Evenings became our ritual. Sometimes we stayed back just to talk about life, mistakes, second chances. She told me about losing her father young, how it made her crave stability in everything. "Is that why you're always so composed?" I asked. She smiled wistfully. "Composure isn't peace. It's armor. You learn to wear it until you forget it's heavy." I nodded. "I know that weight." "Not anymore," she said gently. "You're lighter now." Her words made me pause. I hadn't realized it, but she was right. The ache that once lived in my chest had quieted into something else, a calm acceptance. Then, one evening, as I packed my laptop, my phone buzzed. A name I hadn't seen in months flashed on the screen. "Lara." I stared at it. Message preview glowing faintly. "I'm sorry. I miss you." "Can we talk?" For a long moment, I said nothing. My hands didn't shake this time. Grace noticed. "Everything okay?" I locked the screen. "Yeah," I said. "It's just noise from the past." "Are you going to answer?" "No." She studied my face for a second. "Closure doesn't always need words, does it?" "No," I said softly. "Sometimes silence is the cleanest ending." I placed the phone face down on the desk and turned off the lamp. As we walked out together, Grace said, "You ever think about reaching out? Just to clear the air?" I smiled faintly. If I reply, she wins. If I stay silent, I move on. Grace looked at me, curious. "And what do you want?" "Peace," I said simply. "I already have it." Outside, the night breeze brushed past us. For once, it didn't feel cold. A week later, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror before work. The man staring back wasn't bitter or broken or waiting for someone to fix him. He was steady, grounded, real. I remembered Grace's words, "Pain is the price of becoming real." She was right. I'd paid in heartbreak, sleepless nights, and tears that no one saw. But the man in the mirror was worth every scar. That evening, as I walked past Grace's desk, she smiled up at me. "You look different." "How so?" "Like someone who finally forgave himself." Kay chuckled. "Maybe I did." She closed her laptop. "Good. Then stop staying late. Life's waiting outside these walls." As we stepped into the fading light of dusk, I realized something simple, yet powerful. The past wasn't my prison anymore. It was just my teacher. And this time, I was finally ready to live. I stepped out of the black sedan and stared up at the golden lights of the Grand Haven Hotel. The same damn place. The same rooftop where, years ago, she'd toasted to his success while I sat home counting the hours. But tonight wasn't about ghosts. Tonight, I wasn't the man standing in the shadows. I was the guest of honor. "Mr. Carter." The event manager greeted me. "The press is already inside. Everyone's eager to hear how you turned a loss into a legacy." I smiled faintly. "Loss teaches better than victory ever will." He blinked, not knowing how to respond, and led me toward the ballroom. Inside, chandeliers glittered above hundreds of faces. The air buzzed with conversation, music, and clinking glasses. Reporters hovered near the stage, whispering my name. Ethan Carter, the man who rebuilt everything from nothing. A few years ago, I would have killed to hear those words. Tonight, they barely stirred anything. "Ethan." Noah's familiar voice pulled me back. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Never thought I'd see you giving a keynote speech in this place." "Neither did I said with a half smile. "Funny how life spins back around." He grinned. "Circle of karma, my friend." "You look calm, though." "Nervous?" "No," I said truthfully. "I'm just done being angry." A waiter passed by, tray balanced expertly. I caught a glimpse of her before my mind even processed it, Lara. She wore the same brand of confidence, but it didn't fit anymore. The black uniform hugged a frame that looked smaller, dimmer. Her eyes darted around the room, avoiding attention. For a second, my heart faltered. Old reflex. Old memories. Then I exhaled. She turned, trembling slightly, and froze when our eyes met. Time slowed. The noise faded. The only thing that existed in that moment was her face recognition, shame, and disbelief, all crashing into one flicker of emotion. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but the words never came. I didn't move, didn't smirk, didn't frown, just looked at Hercom, steady. A waiter brushed past, bumping her elbow. The tray tilted, a glass nearly fell, and she caught it just in time. She forced a smile for the guests nearby, pretending not to know me, but her eyes, they couldn't lie. She looked away first. Noah followed my gaze. "Is that ya?" I said quietly. He exhaled, long and low. "Damn, didn't think she'd fall this far. I don't think she'd planned on it." He shook his head. "You want me to get her out of here?" "No, Ethan. She's already out," I said simply. "Out of my world." The host approached the mic, announcing, "Tonight, we celebrate innovation and resilience. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Ethan Carter." Applause filled the hall. Cameras flashed. I walked to the stage. Every step echoing through the same marble floors where she once stood laughing beside another man. I adjusted the mic. "Thank you. Years ago, I stood outside this very hotel, invisible to the world. My life had just fallen apart. I thought success was about how much you could give up for someone else. I was wrong." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Success," I continued, "isn't about what you build for others. It's about what you rebuild for yourself after everything's been taken." The hall fell silent. I caught sight of Lara at the edge of the room. Her head was bowed. After the speech, reporters crowded around. Questions flew like sparks. "How did you find the strength to start over? What message do you have for people betrayed by those they love?" I smiled politely. "Forgive, but don't return. Pain is temporary. Self-respect isn't." Flashbulbs went off. Somewhere behind the crowd, a glass shattered, soft but sharp. I didn't turn. Later, I stepped onto the same rooftop terrace where it all began. The night breeze was cool, carrying the faint scent of roses and rain. The city stretched out below, glittering like the future itself. I heard footsteps. Lara again hesitant. I didn't move. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I shouldn't be here." "You're not," I said, eyes on the skyline. She swallowed. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I ruined everything." "You did," I agreed. Tears filled her eyes. "I thought I'd be happier." I thought. He loved me. Finally turned, meeting her gaze. "We all think that until we learn what real love costs." She trembled. "And you? Did you ever stop hating me?" "I stopped feeling anything," I said. That's how I knew I was free. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Just the sound of the city below, alive and indifferent. She finally looked down. "You deserve this life. You deserve to learn," I said quietly, just like I did. She nodded weakly, wiping her eyes before turning away. As she walked off, I didn't watch her go. I didn't need to. Some endings don't require witnesses. They just need silence. Noah found me leaning on the railing later. "You good?" "Better than good," I said. "Balanced," he chuckled. "Balanced, huh? Never thought I'd hear that word from you." "Me neither," I admitted. "But maybe peace isn't winning. Maybe it's just not needing to fight anymore." He nodded slowly. "Then you've already won." The lights below shimmered against the glass. I raised my glass of water, not champagne this time, and whispered to myself, to the man I was, and the one I became. A faint smile tugged at my lips, because for the first time in years I didn't need her to see me. I already saw myself. The morning air carried that quiet kind of warmth that only comes after a long storm. I stood outside the new glass building, sunlight reflecting off the fresh silver letters. Nova Atelier Dreams Done Right. My fingers traced the edge of the sign, slow and steady. I'd dreamed of this for years, though not like this. Back then, my dream had someone else's name on it. Now, it only had mine. Still can't believe it's real, huh? Grace's voice came from behind me, soft, teasing. I turned. She was holding 2 cups of coffee, the same kind she brought every morning. Her hair danced lightly in the breeze, the early light turning it gold. Feels strange, I said with a smile. Not having to chase someone else's vision. Not needing approval. She handed me a cup. You earned that feeling. You built this from ashes, Ethan, I chuckled. You make it sound heroic. I just got tired of bleeding for people who mistook my kindness for weakness. Grace smiled faintly. That's exactly why this place will work. We walked toward the entrance. Employees were already trickling in, young, hopeful faces, the kind that reminded me of myself before everything broke. Morning, Mr. Carter. One of them greeted cheerfully. Morning, I replied, nodding. Grace leaned closer. They really admire you, you know. You give them a reason to believe that decency and success can exist in the same place. I glanced at her. That's because I had to lose everything to learn what decency actually means. Inside, the lobby smelled of new paint and fresh coffee. Plants lined the walls, sunlight pooled across the marble floor, and the hum of quiet work began to fill the space. This used to be all I ever wanted, I said. Grace looked at me curiously. A company. No, I said softly. Peace. Waking up without resentment. Knowing that what I do today is for me and for the people who stayed. She smiled gently. Then I guess you finally got your dream. As we entered the conference room, a few of the early staff stood around the table, reviewing marketing designs. A poster on the wall read our motto, Dreams Done Right. One of the interns turned to me nervously. Sir, do you think the tagline's too simple? I smiled. Simple is perfect. I spent years complicating things that didn't deserve my energy. I like simple. They nodded, relieved. Grace whispered, That's your new superpower, Clarity. Maybe, I said with a half smile. Or maybe it's finally knowing what matters. Later, when the meeting ended, Grace and I stepped onto the balcony. The city stretched out below, sunlight shimmering on glass towers. It reminded me of that hotel rooftop a year ago, the place where my old life had ended. Do you ever think about her? Grace asked gently. Sometimes, I admitted. Not the way I used to. She was a chapter. Oddly painful, but necessary. Grace sipped her coffee. And if she saw you now, she'd probably wonder how the man she underestimated ended up building something better without her. Grace smiled. Karma has good timing. I laughed quietly. I used to think revenge meant seeing her suffer. But now I get it's just living well. Building something honest. She looked at me thoughtfully. Do you ever regret how long it took? I stared out at the skyline. Every wasted second taught me something. I learned how deep betrayal cuts, but also how far strength can reach when you stop bleeding for the wrong people. Her hand brushed mine. You're not the same man I met in that office 2 years ago. No, I said softly. That man was trying to prove he was enough. This one knows he always was. A breeze swept through, carrying faint laughter from the team inside. For the first time in years, I didn't feel a void. I felt whole. Grace turned to me, a playful glint in her eyes. You know, your story would make one hell of a movie. I laughed. Nah, too quiet. No explosions, no dramatic chase scenes. Just a guy learning to walk away instead of breaking. She tilted her head. That's exactly why it's beautiful. My phone buzzed with a message from Noah. Proud of you, brother. You turned the worst betrayal into the best comeback. I smiled. He'd seen every low point, every sleepless night. Every time I almost gave up, I typed back, didn't come back for revenge. Came back for myself, he replied instantly. That's what makes it revenge. Grace laughed when she saw the text. He's right, you know, maybe I said, smiling faintly. But the difference is, I didn't destroy anyone to rise. I just stopped letting them destroy me. As the day unfolded, employees gathered for a small photo in front of the sign. Grace stood beside me, camera flash bouncing off our smiles. Someone shouted, "Say something inspiring, boss." I raised my coffee cup and said, "I spent years building someone else's dream. Now I build mine with people who don't use love as currency." Laughter and applause followed. Grace's eyes glimmered with pride. When everyone dispersed, she lingered. "So, what now?" I looked at her, the sun outlining her in soft gold. "Now, we make this place mean something. Not just a Campania reminder that no dream is worth losing yourself for." She nodded, smiling. I like that. Stood there, coffee in hand, sunlight warming my face. For the first time in years, the weight was gone. The past no longer defined me. The pain no longer fueled me. I had nothing to prove to anyone, and everything to build for myself. The sign gleamed once more as the wind carried the scent of coffee and hope. "Nova. Atelier Dreams done right," I whispered under my breath. "Yeah, this time, done right." Grace looked over. "What was that?" "Just talking to the universe," I said, smiling. She laughed. "Then tell it thank you for giving you a second chance." "I already did," I said quietly, eyes on the rising sun. "By taking it,